In past meetings, we've talked about many topics, many subjects which on the surface seem to be negative or gloomy or depressing. Like we talk about the awful shape the human mind is in, which makes the awful shape that we find the world in. And this is absolutely necessary and a correct procedure. We must see the illness before we can begin with the healing of the illness. However, now follow this closely. This is all on the level of thought which divides itself into opposites. And we must see both sides. And eventually we transcend both sides, which I'll explain a little better in a little bit. So in order to see both sides at once, today, during all this meeting, during my talk, and during the discussion half, I want you to swing completely away from everything which we would normally term negative. The sickness of the world, your personal problems, how you can't understand yourself, and all the rest of it. Swing over from that, over to the fact that this is a cheerful morning. This is going to be a morning of pure, cheerful messages all around. Everything we're going to talk about is what we would normally call positive messages. Cheerful, happy, exciting in the right way. So in your comments and questions, deliberately, by deliberate thinking, stay away from negative subjects. I want you to talk only about happy things, cheerful things. Now, by all means, remember that we're doing this consciously, not mechanically. Because if I say we're going to talk about cheerful things, that implies the opposite of gloomy and depressing things, does it not? You can't have something cheerful without thinking or coming in contact with something gloomy as its opposite. Our purpose is not to live in cheerful thought at all, because that will have to swing over to gloomy thought. We're not here to give ourselves pep talks at all. We're here to understand that there's something above the opposites of gloomy thought and of cheerful messages, which will become clearer as we go along here. So, all during this morning, by a deliberate, choiceful, there is such a word, choiceful thinking, we're going to think about cheerful things, happy things, and it's just, the work is loaded with them. So here we go on it. The first cheerful message about our work here in this group, about what we're trying to do, about what you're trying to do in your daily work, is that it is an authentic, cheerful effort that we're making. Remember the word genuine or authentic. There's no other way that any of you, any person has ever tried, has ever made you permanently and spontaneously happy or cheerful. Nothing has worked. Has it worked? If it had worked, you wouldn't be here now. And those of you listening to this tape, remember this. If the ways you have tried in the past, your religions, your philosophies, your excitement over making money, if they had worked, you wouldn't be listening to this tape now. Although there's other things to say about that too. You may be listening to this accidentally. And if so, then I urge you to listen to it consciously, because there is a tremendous cheerful message for you here. So it's real. And we begin to feel its reality as we continue to work with it after we've gone through many hard trials and many confusions. And every time we got knocked down by a discouraging thought, we just got up and went on again. Refused to give up. Secondly, all this is a cheerful message. And nothing but that. Absolutely nothing but that. There have been times in this class when harsh things, the word harsh in quote marks, has been said to some of you, to all of us, to one degree or another. And we took it as a blow. We took it as an insult. We took it as something hard to understand. Isn't it a tremendous thing to realize that everything is a cheerful message to us? Absolutely everything. You get uncomfortable over something that you hear. That's cheery. That's wonderful. It's great. Because you're beginning to see the difference between living in a phony happiness and real happiness. You're beginning to see that you have been living in a strained stage role, stage performance. To put it more bluntly, a phony stage performance. Painful, isn't it? That is cheery news to know that we don't have to put on a performance at all. I don't have to be anything. You don't have to be anything. You don't have to impress anyone. If we could remember that one thing alone out of this talk, that everything is good news. Don't you know? You don't know it. You will. Don't you know that if you get fired, it may be bad news on the everyday level, but great news internally if you take it right? Don't you know it's tremendous, cheerful news if you lose someone that you're afraid of losing? That shock is trying to tell you that you've been living in a phony dreamland. But we have to use it, don't we? We can't go along with it and be egotistical and ask, why do these things always happen to me? Which is the way a childish mind operates. Why does this happen to me? You know why it happens to you? Because this is what you have been doing to other people all your life. Because you're living on that level. When you live on the level where you're no longer cruel to anyone else, they are no longer cruel to you, because cruelty doesn't exist for you, even if you get fired, even if someone leaves you. So it's all good news. Now, to be much more specific about it, it is a cheery message. Now, I want you to think about this. I'm going to give it to you, and I want you to reflect. In fact, I'm going to leave just a minute of silence, a minute or two of silence, so you can reflect on it. It's a cheerful message that you need not be afraid of your own mind. You are afraid of your own mind, aren't you? I know you are.
Right.
Think about it. Just think about it. First of all, think that you are fearful. Where is this mind of mine going to lead me next? What mess am I going to get into with that beautiful woman or that handsome man, that stupid beautiful woman or stupid handsome man? Where is my mind going to lead me next? Into what problem? Into what conflict? Into what fight in the family, in the home? You're afraid of what your own mind can do to you. The good news is you need not fear your own mind anymore in any way, because you will really be in control of it by one process and one process only: understanding how it operates. Shut it off. If I can see how terrified I am, to state it in a slightly different way, to see how terrified I am of myself, of being a victim, not to you or not to this outer world, but being a victim to my own foolishness, stupidity, impulsiveness, sex obsession, obsession to prove myself, obsession to make something of myself so that I feel that I'm somebody. My own madness. If I can see that I am afraid of my own madness, don't be afraid to see it. See it. Because this is the way you see it when you're all alone and cry and feel lonely and cry out in agony, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? See how afraid you are of your own mind? You don't have any confidence whatever in yourself. We're here to learn authentic confidence by understanding every movement of how our mind works. And we can't go too far into the byways of this, but simply to see that my mind works by a succession of thoughts, which by being very alert, I can see it come up. I can see, for example, a thought that I am afraid of myself, and I can learn what it means to let that thought go and not cling to it. Just let it go. Let it fade out by itself, which it will do when I understand many other things in connection with it. When I understand, for example, my fondness for phony emotional agitation. To be a great repentant sinner is a phony emotional agitation. If I can drop the thought that I am a great repentant sinner before God, I will get myself a little bit free, because it's still egotistical to think that there's a God outside who is giving me all that wonderful attention. Look at the vanity involved in that. God sent this man as a missionary to China. God called this man to preach good news of salvation to the heathen. What vanity. God called you and I to wake up. And the God is nowhere but right in here, right inside of you and you and you and you. So what a wonderful thing. Just think about it for a minute, that you don't have to be afraid of yourself anymore. So by studying myself, how my mind operates, I become free of the false movements of my mind, which is the truth that sets me free. Good news, cheery news, wonderful news. And you don't have to fake it. You don't have to fake anything, as we have been doing. This is a world of fakers who go around pretending they're in a cheery spirit or excited over something. It's all a phony front. They're miserable people. And another point, a cheery message. And this is terribly important to grasp. At the first, I have to hear good news, cheerful messages, as we are doing here right now. I can find it in books that say that there is a way out of the mess we find ourselves in, that by using our minds properly we can free ourselves of ourselves. That is good. It is proper to hear it, to read it, to reflect about it. But above that, and make connections now with what you've heard before, but above that is the fact that I become my own cheeriness. See, I know it by knowledge because you have told me these things. Now it's on the level of knowledge. But the level of knowledge is not me at all. I am more than knowledge. I am the whole, capital W. I am the all, capital A. So that, listen, the time comes when I cease to seek for cheerful messages, for comfort, because I see that is a wrong move, because I'm thinking about it, therefore thinking there is an I who can get cheery messages. False cheerfulness is merely an attempt to affirm that there is a great man or great woman here. It's a false move, an attempt to affirm that I'm a dynamic preacher, that I'm a great industrialist who started with nothing and built up this great factory, that I'm a great advisor of other people, you name it. But since it is an illusion that I am anything at all like this, all these things just happen to me, but I identify with it and think that I did it. Since it is an illusion that I am this great person, I'm driven desperately, compulsively, to try to prove it. And so I go to the parties and the conventions and anything else that I can find to try to prove, to try to find cheery messages that I am this person, but it can never be done. You can't prove that a non-existent man is there. You can't. And it's madness, a part of the madness of the mind, to try to prove it. There's nothing to prove. Through all this hard work, I finally come to the point where I see there is just one thing, which is, I'll do it deliberately this time, which is cheerfulness with a capital C. Not as a thought, not as something I have to seek. Thank heaven I can give up my stupid social activities, which are driving me nuts anyway. I often wonder when I go to these happy parties and see all the phony people, including myself, what on earth I'm doing there. And I find that the cheerfulness of it vanishes when I go out the door after the ball is over. I go back to my depression, do I not? I finally see that there is nothing to seek. There's no cheerfulness to seek in the outer world because there is no one there needing to seek it. Is this part clear? There is no one there at all. Is an illusory person. Having gone through this by long and hard work on myself, all effort to be cheerful ceases, and then I am cheerful. So having seen that there is nothing to get outside of understanding, it brings me to another extremely cheerful message, which is that I have overcome the world. How many of you connect this with something in the New Testament? Huh? I have overcome the world. It's in there. In fact, I will quote it to you as best I remember it. Be of good cheer, I have overcome the world. Something like that. You may quote it more correctly. Do you know what overcoming the world means? Very simple, isn't it? It means to overcome the delusion that I am what I have called myself all my life. I am Tom Smith, the social leader. Find your own labels. Which is, by the way, finding these labels much more difficult than I can imagine because I've been living with them so long, I take them as me, don't I? Mm-hmm. And I use every opportunity to affirm them. You laugh at a joke, I say. I tell a joke and you laugh. I have to be very, very careful that I don't go into the label, the witty man in the group. Right? I have to find every occasion for catching myself trying to prove that I am this illusory person and see that it cannot possibly be proven. But finally, and most importantly, and as a summary, and then we'll discuss things, the time comes when I see my real form of existence, that is my real nature, which is that of the all. A person who is complete, who is the all, doesn't have to seek a thing. He has it because he is it. See? We're not trying to get something, we're trying to be someone. And that being someone is getting everything. The whole business. Again, what a relief it is. What indeed a cheerful thought it is to me that I no longer have to try. I have to try in one sense to see that I no longer need to try. There's nothing to do anymore. And it sounds like a contradiction, but it really isn't. I must make a very, very hard and persistent personal effort to see that I need not make any personal effort at all, because I've risen above that plane, the plane of thinking about it, the plane of thought. Then life consists, regardless of my finances, of my home situation, life becomes pure good cheer for me. Shut that off for a minute, one, would you? All right, now we're going to discuss, and I want you to remember what was said at the beginning, to circle your comments and questions around the idea that this is pure cheerfulness. And we'll go into that in just a minute, but I want to give you your project. And those of you listening to the tape, do this project on your own at home. It'll be explained quite clearly to you, and very simply for that matter. Take paper and pencil. You can write this down now, or probably even remember it. Take paper and pencil and write cheerful messages at the top of your sheet. Cheerful messages. Then write from 1 to 5, the numbers 1 to 5 down underneath it on the left-hand side of the page. And then simply list, in your own words, various cheerful messages that are cheerful to you because you have begun to see something. You've begun to feel something. Keep them fairly brief. And you're to list 5, but you may want to write the first one in 1 sentence, or 2 or 3 if you want. Use your own judgment on that. But make it concise. Don't ramble. You might say something like, one cheerful message is the fact that I have all the building materials I need to build a new life. Use your own words to state a cheerful message. Is that clear? Need any more be said? If you have any questions on this, say it now. All right. Shut it off for a minute, one. So do these and bring them to class tomorrow and we'll discuss them. 1 to 5. All right, let's have comments and questions on this. One of the most important being, well, they're all equally important, but perhaps one that hits you emotionally the most is the fact that you need no longer be afraid of your own mind. You need no longer fear where it will lead you. I'll ask you a question to open this discussion period. Where has your mind led you up till now? Not to very cheerful or sunny places, has it? Not at all. Look at the messes you've got into with other people. Confine it to that for a minute. What messes have you got into? What conflicts? Because you entered into a human relationship with a sleeping, deluded mind. Aren't you glad to hear that once you clarify your mind, it will no longer lead you into these unhappy human relationships? You'll know enough to stay away from that person, from that man, from that woman, and you'll be right in the middle of social activities maybe. You'll be right in the middle of working with dozens of other people down at the office or wherever, but you will be free of them because you're not trying to get a false sense of cheerfulness from them, because you see that they cannot confirm an illusion, no matter how many compliments you get, how flattered you get, how comfortable you feel just because a friend of yours is there in the room, or a husband or wife is in the room. You'll see that it actually can do nothing for you because you're trying to find comfort where it can't be found outside of yourself. It can only be found when you understand your own mind. Isn't that great news? All right, Larry, go ahead. And speak up, all of you, please, so we catch it on the tape.
Yesterday evening, while sitting in my room, half daydreaming, listening to the radio, the announcement was made for this Saturday night of Elvis Presley, the great actor, which he is, will be at a certain place, held over, so on. And about that time, the song, "Oh Yes, I'm the Great Pretender." And I saw myself associate with the mood of that actor, hallucinating that I was Elvis Presley, and then I suddenly saw, cheerful message, U-turn. I don't have to be that emotion. I am not that person. I am, in falsity, I have been a great pretender in my own role in acting to perform. And I saw that I can get out of that. It was cheerful to me. Yes, I'll listen to music, but not go to sleep and lull down into that I am an Elvis Presley pretension.
Yes.
That's all I have.
Shut up. Yes, I understand, Larry. What you're saying, if I followed it correctly, is that you need not identify with that particular kind of excitement. It is really foreign to you anyway. And by the way, this is how people are attracted to exciting events. The appeal of losing themselves in an excitement. And indeed, that's exactly what happens. You lose yourself and never find your way back, maybe, because you've identified with excitement, and this is what has become important to you, the thrill. And you never see that this thrill is not really you at all. It is masquerading as you. Try to tell people to give up their false excitements and watch how they'll fight you. You can't even tell them to begin with because they don't understand why you even would say a thing like that. Because they are taking excitement and emotional agitation as life. And it is simply a false feeling of life. Okay. Let me see your hands. How many of you are actually aware that you are afraid of your own mind? I know that you are. Most of you have raised your hands. Become more conscious of that. as a first step. Otherwise, we're still living in the vanity that our minds are fine guides. Ha! Where has your mind led you up till now? We're here to get out of it. Go ahead.
Yes, about us being afraid of our own minds. See if I can make this clear. Yesterday, I was writing about comparing the teachings of two great minds. As I went into it, I came and wrote about two conflicting selves in a man. This may be just about explode inwardly as I was writing. And when I brought the other man into the writing and his teachings, my mind tried to scare me by bringing self-condemnation, that I was doing something wrong. This is something that I thought I was free of. And I cannot explain it by words, because at this moment, as I was observing myself and going through all this confusion, there was another part of me, there was a cheerful message, which cannot be explained by words. In other words, I just observe it. It is the right thing. Do not fall to his call his bluff. It is not that strong, which cannot be explained in words. In fact, it might look a little confusing to some of you, that I actually did like, but in the right way, the confusion as it was arising at that moment, because this is part of the cheerful message, that this is the only thing I can see about myself which finally will free me.
Right, right. It's the cheerfulness of a gold miner who maybe hasn't found gold yet, except perhaps traces, and he knows if he continues to dig,
Right.
he'll hit the vein of gold that is surely down there. And it is. It is indeed down there. But you have to find that trace of gold for yourself, and not take anyone's word that, dig over here, sir or madam, and you will find gold. This is what we have been doing all our lives, taking other people's words for it, haven't we? This is the way to behave. For example, we were told by deluded people that get security, financial security, social security. I don't mean the law on that, but have a wife or a husband and children around you, and lots of friends, get lots of friends. We were told this is what to seek, so that you feel secure. But we felt just as insecure as before. Someone else told us that this was a trace of gold, and they told us falsely, because they themselves were living in the same misery. See how a man who has not found himself will always lead others astray? He has no choice. That's just a machine talking to you out there and trying to convince himself, and then feeling guilty about it afterward, because inwardly he knows what a phony he is. But will he go through the shock of coming to a group like this and receiving the enormous shock of seeing what he is, and therefore what he must die to, what he must give up? How few ever do it. Who had their hand up? Did you? Or just, go ahead.
To me, it's a cheerful thought to see the false guilt that I have carried over false morals to which I was supposed to live up to in a graven image.
Yes, that is a tremendous
Right.
one.
Right.
Living up to man-made moral standards, which
Dead
are always
image, graven
hypocritical.
image.
Yes. Whew, what good news that is.
It's good news that we are the only real problem, instead of having the problem be out there somewhere, out in the world, where we really can't ever do anything about it. It's good news that it's an inward problem that can be dissolved.
And that you can work right where you are. Exactly, because you're never anywhere but with yourself. I can work on myself right here now. You can work on yourself at work, you in your office, you in your home, right where we are. Whew.
Alone or with
alone
others.
or with others. And we vary our work accordingly. Sometimes you're working in one way, simply by watching your thoughts at one time. Another time you're seeing human nature as it really is, by observing that person you work with, and seeing at the same time. Remember the lesson we had? Anytime you see a person who is vicious or cruel, you must always see him as a suffering person. See them both at once. Don't see one side or the other, or you'll go wrong. If you see him as suffering, you may go into false sentimentality. If you see him as cruel, you'll condemn him. If you see both at once, you'll smash the opposites and see the whole picture about the man. And you'll see him as both cruel and as a suffering, pathetic human being. Then you won't make a mistake toward that person. You won't fall into the trap of going into an opposite about him. You'll see the whole thing. He is cruel, and he is suffering. Cheery. Now he is cheery because you have not made a mistake toward him. Yes.
It's actually even good news to see a negative in myself that I have never seen before. To discover that it's there and has been, that I really have been living this way all my life. For example, to discover that there's contempt for other people, and to never have really seen it as contempt before. This is good news, because I can never free myself until I see this and all
Yes.
other negatives.
Yes. Isn't it strange? Look how it's strange it would sound to a person who's not working on this to say it is a cheerful message to see how I have contempt for other people. But as she just explained, we understand what that means. It means we're no longer lying to ourselves. Therefore, this self-honesty is going to begin a process of making us real people instead of the phony people we've been all our lives. And suffering from our own phoniness. I don't suffer from anything but my phoniness, my lies. You can be phony, you can tell lies. I don't suffer from that. Because if I see my phoniness, I'm not going to let your phoniness take me anymore. You're not going to deceive me anymore. Because it was always self-deception to begin with.
It's good news to become aware of how unaware I am, and to see that I really don't hear my voice, I don't see my actions, I don't hear the words I speak, I'm not aware of facial expressions, so that this ties in with what she said, that the more I see that I don't see, and the more shocked I am by it, then the more I can work with it.
Right. Do you understand? 1 minute, now I'll call on you. Did you understand the part about being your own good cheer? Did you understand that part about not thinking about it, not seeking it, but being it? If so, I would like someone to explain it in their own words, because this is so important. Then we'll get to you. Go ahead.
By seeing it, to me, it's not seeing it with the eyes, it's seeing it with a feeling of cheerfulness inside, in the body.
All right, it would certainly include feeling, but it could not be that exclusively. It has to be based on feeling the truth indeed, and seeing it indeed, but being it, because when I am it, there is nothing outside of what I am. This is very difficult to grasp with a conditioned mind, or with the mind at all, because the mind always works in opposites. And you have to see it with something that is not a thought. And you see it by being it.
You're it and you're not.
Say that again.
We're it and we're not. I mean, as far as seeing the thought without it, not
Oh,
the thought.
okay, okay.
My reaction to myself.
Explain.
My reaction to myself.
That's dangling.
To me is, seeing it to me, it's confusing to me too, is my reaction to myself. if maybe my true self comes up with a little truth, and then I feel cheerful about it, my reaction to myself.
Let me explain another way.
Yes.
When I am something, when I am cheerfulness, for example, I don't see it. You can't see it. To see it means there's a person who is seeing something else, which is opposites, which is division. So seeing, though it starts the process because it's on the level of thought, must end. Seeing cheerfulness must end because that's still seeing it and trying to get it. So when you are something, you don't see it. The familiar example is your eyes can see, but they don't see themselves. You are it. And we'll end this half of the tape with that.
It's a cheery message that I can start living my own life, that other people are not controlling me, and that my thoughts and my emotions are not in command of me. I can start to live. And it's also cheery to know that I don't owe anyone anything, and other people don't owe me anything.
Well, don't you owe a cheerful spirit to other people? What? Explain.
My cheerful spirit is within me, and it may not appear cheerful, but it's still cheerful.
Of course, that was a deliberate question, so that somebody listening to this tape may not comprehend that we must abolish a surface, cheerful manner. That is, again, a stage performance which will prevent us from finding the kind of cheerfulness that Sally just spoke about. I knew she knew what she's talking about, which is simply a natural one which does not smile a lot necessarily. It possibly does at times, but it's something quite natural. You don't have to think about being cheerful. To think about being cheerful is, again, something very strained, unnatural, and a burden. Yes.
Could you say this kind of cheerfulness has no opposite?
Absolutely. Because this is the cheerfulness with a capital C. Just as it is the life with a capital L. It is oneness with a capital O. It's all the same thing. If you have found yourself, which is our essential task here, finding yourself really meaning that there is no self there, but just a oneness, what else is there except a cheerful state? You see, we try to be cheerful because we have not found ourselves. And so we excite ourselves. Ooh, I'm excited now because of something good that has happened to me. Now you're a slave to stimulation and a slave to depression. You know, people just never see. They never see when they're at that exciting party or they've scored a success of any kind, success in business, scoring a success with the opposite sex, scoring a success in any way, your depression and your gloom is inevitable. They don't see what we have learned here, that the mind works in opposites. You will have to swing over to depression. We are not going to live that way, which means we have to give up the identity we get from being either successful or being defeated. Don't you know that a defeated person is a dangerous person, just as dangerous as a successful person? Because they simply have different demands. The successful man says, at all costs I have to hang on to my successful business or my successful social relations. The defeated man says, at all costs I must get success. And both are lost human beings who are a danger to themselves and therefore to society as a whole. Is this clear to you?
Right.
Yes.
When you say that, I think of two men. One is going to be the war god, and the other is going to be the slave that is chased. One has a gun. The one that has the gun thinks he is the success at that time. The other one, if he will not take defeat, just bides his time. Both have to have fear of the other. In due course of time, the other will be the master, and with the false knife, and the other the slave. Either is a winner, either is a loser.
Yeah.
Both.
The winner and the loser are both equally afraid. There's no difference in them, is there? Go ahead.
Two things. Just thought of one. Forget the one. Okay. You as a teacher, your words as a teaching, the group as a great revelatory object exists somewhere. This is a cheerful message. Exists somewhere much more powerfully in us, in myself.
Everything is in you. It can't be apart from you.
A student is personality. An awake person, a person who is awake is essence.
Okay, call it that if you want. Call it essence. Call it the kingdom of heaven within. Call it an understanding. You don't have to grope for words. Yes.
It would be cheerful if I could cheerfully see that I was a petty, jealous person.
Why would it be cheerful to see that you're a petty, jealous
Because
person?
I find myself avoiding seeing myself as such a person.
And the avoidance is your prison. Yes, this is what Regina brought up earlier.
I have found myself recently trying to be too serious with the work. A moment ago in the big laughter, whatever, to me that was spontaneity. It wasn't a thought, I'm going to laugh because of the whatever. Spontaneous. It was me at the moment. I was the moment. I was cheerful.
There was no effort, was there?
No.
No effort, whatever. Yes.
It's a cheerful message to know that I can live without conflict of wondering, how shall I think, what shall I say, how shall I look, what shall I decide, what kind of an expression on my face should I have towards someone, should I say yes or no to a particular question, all of the things that do cause conflict, to know that I can live without them.
To cease to live in the way, the painful way we have lived most of our lives.
Ills are ill, loser.
Say that again, please.
Ills are ill, losery.
The ills are illusory. They are. Because if we see that we are not who we take ourselves to be, we lose the pain of that illusion. The illusion that I am somebody, that you are somebody, is nothing but pain. What a cheery message there. Therefore, as I lose what I call me, I lose my pains. Because the illusion and the pain are the same thing. Is that clear? Look. I don't know who I am, and so I say I'm going to be somebody in this world. And immediately I start destroying at least my little portion of the world, starting with causing conflict in the home, or causing conflict at the office by being neurotic or whatever. I do this because I think I must become someone, and therefore I must do something in order to become this someone. I'm in pain. I'm in hell. I see that I don't have to do a thing but become who I really am, which is nothing, which is everything. Where are my pains? No more. I have no demands on you, whatever. None. Because I'm not using you to try to affirm who I am. then see how the world just rolls, how your world just rolls without opposition, without conflict, without trying to block anything, without trying to alter anything, without trying to change or improve anything, without trying to abolish anything. Your world rolls because you and the rolling world are one. As your world rolls, you roll. They're the same thing. It's only when I want to change the world that I'm in conflict with it. Conflict ends as the illusion ends. The illusion that I am apart from the world. This is very advanced, and some of you listening to this tape will have to think very long and hard about this, and I want you to do it. This is the secret you've been looking for. Don't miss it. Yes.
It is a cheerful thought to know that when my thoughts take me over, I can become aware that they have taken me over, and I can stop them and bring myself back to now.
Who, perhaps you, who will explain what we mean by stopping thoughts and bring us back to now? Would you like to try that?
Yes. I become aware suddenly that I am my thoughts, that my thoughts have taken me over, and that I am nothing at that point but my thoughts, and that I can halt those thoughts. I can just stop them, see what they are doing, and be aware that they are me, that they have taken me over, and I can just stop those thoughts.
Yes. You need not live in negative thoughts once you understand that you need not. Yes.
Okay, a thought cannot exist unless it was created. And since the thought exists, it was created, therefore it was created at a time. So as soon as you're thinking, you are putting yourself either in a past time or a future time, whichever tense your thought is in, and you are never with yourself. You're never in the now, you're never in the present. And always you just...
Yes. Thought is always in time, as you said. Therefore, to be out of time, past or future, we can learn to break thought, which is in time, and be here and now. Yes.
You gave this statement last week. You said as long as the I interferes, we're in time, thought, we're the mechanical selves, a troublemaker.
Yes.
Enjoying it somehow.
Yes.
Well, at least I see that I can't give it up.
Okay.
That's what happens.
And we're here to learn how to give it up the proper way. Yes.
If I'm in the folly or daydream at any given point in place, on a sidewalk, a certain day, in a certain city, and I'm dreaming in my history or my past follies, my mind is wandering away, dreaming of past follies away from my body. And then it wanders right by me, the body again, up to, oh, there's a telephone, I'll call, whoops, what if this works, that works. At that instance, at that point, I am not with me and I stub a toe.
Yes. We want to be where we are at the moment, except in those times where it is necessary to be in thought. And we've gone over this many times. When you're driving your car, you be in thought. Because thought says, the signal says red, stop. You stop. It says go, you say go. You're in thought. But you know, you can learn to go back and forth real fast, between thought and no thought. So that you're in the right state at the right time. There's time to think and there's time not to think. Did I see a hand? Yes.
I have found out that, well, not have, but that sounded too profound. Sometimes I feel like I want to be free from everything, and I start thinking that I'm pretty free and that I'm in a pretty good state, or that I'm working. Then all of a sudden a friend appears and he says, "Hey, may I have $10?" And boy, I see that I'm really a sucker. Right? There's no strength in me to say no. And at that point, there's too much guilt.
All right, what are you going to do about it?
Well, I'm starting to say no.
Give him 20.
Thanks, Rod.
No, we understand what you mean. You're afraid of many things, maybe of disappointing him or of him not liking you anymore. Maybe you have false sympathy, thinking that if he doesn't have $10, he might get hungry. Something like that. That all becomes clear after a while. What we do indeed want is to be free of wrong thought toward this situation you just asked about. Because it's the thought that punishes us, that keeps us getting wrongly involved with people. Boy, what a good message, cheerful message it is to not get involved with wrong people anymore. Psychologically involved. You can be socially involved, but you don't get mixed up with them so that there is conflict and problems. You know better. Through hard knocks, through great pains in the past, you've learned to stay away from people who don't want the truth, which is the majority of human beings. I saw a hand over there.
Well, from my point of view, I haven't been yet a big sucker, at least I think, a big sucker where I have really been taken yet. So it's very hard for me to keep people away all the time, but that's the way, to keep people away always, at least detached from them, because still there's a small part of me that doesn't like people taking advantage of me, my weaknesses.
Yes, which they're doing,
Right.
because you are weak.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So it's very hard to keep people away.
All right. Effective as of today, you are forbidden to ever loan money to anyone. Got it?
Got it.
You're not to loan 1 cent to anyone, starting today. Got it? Go ahead.
See, something I just saw. When I cried to you about Joe and George and Frank took me, silently I'm saying, I'm takeable, sock it to me, and if you're a con artist, you'll lay it on me. I attracted you. And then I bemoan it later that you took advantage. You took my $1,200. No. In sleep, I advertised to you, I'm a sucker. Punch me. And then bemoan it after you do.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. The victim.
That's right.
The victim attracts what he gets.
I advertised it.
Yes.
I'm a sucker. Punch
Right.
me.
That's right.
We've said this. The expression on your face tells people how to treat you. We talked about the expression on your face. This lady here, I don't want to mention names, but this lady here, her face says, "Take me. I'm weak and gullible." The expression on your face will gradually change as you work, which does not mean it becomes. What are you whispering?
It's quite fruity.
Yes.
She's blushing.
Which does not mean it goes to the opposite of a hard look at all. It just does not give the invitation to people to take advantage of you, even in small things. You look back into your life somewhere and think of some time, maybe a relative, where you said a certain thing to this relative and you just gave them the golden opportunity to pounce on you. And you saw that what you said was the invitation to them because they sensed that you were weak, which you were. And they pounced. And you learn not to give them the opportunity anymore because you're more in command of yourself. And they sense it. You have a sign on you that says, "Don't fool around with me," or get a better sign than that. Yes.
Which reminds me of yesterday when I was in the state employment office, and there was quite a long line, and there was only one person to wait on people, and she was taking her time, and I could notice her down the line when there were still several people in front of me, and I could see that the expression on her face was going to intimidate me when I got there, the way she was treating this person, and everybody was nervous in this line. And she was managing to intimidate people. And so I had a little foresight, a little chance ahead to try to prepare to be a little more conscious of how I have always permitted myself to be intimidated by this sort of look on someone's face, by the response that she would
Yes.
give.
That is
And this is
superb
very
work.
cheerful, too.
Pardon?
And this, to me, was really
Yes.
cheerful.
Yes.
tell how she didn't intimidate you? You explained it in more detail to me, Regina, how you actually did work.
Uh-huh. Well, I was more conscious of it, and then what she told me was not clear to me. The instructions she gave me after she filled out a little form was not clear to me what I should do. And so before that day, I would have gone off confused because I would have been intimidated. You know, I would have been scared to ask her this question with all these people in the line behind me waiting and listening, being within earshot. And so I asked her to explain it more thoroughly. And this was beyond what she was normally, you could tell it was beyond what she was normally used to having people ask her, which upset her then. Not, you know, she didn't get real upset, but she was obviously upset that I had asked a question that I should have already known the answer to.
Yes. You braved her wrath.
Uh-huh.
Is that what you're saying?
Right.
That is wonderful. You went beyond normal duty, beyond the call of duty, by deliberately exposing yourself to her added wrath. Is that correct?
Right.
Yes. Yes.
If anyone listening to tape or here has ever fulfilled the role of salesman, one of the things taught in the office, go down the road and find that sign on the door that says absolutely no salesmen, no solicitors, no agents. That sign is advertising, quote, "My wife is weak and gullible. Don't peddle vacuum cleaners to her." Aha! That's the place you go. Make sure the husband's not there. See? Sign this dual contract. He is also responsible in the state of California for her actions. Make sure he's not there. Go in. That is the weakest target for the sale of my vacuum, my Collier's magazine, my encyclopedia, anything.
Yeah. All right. Let's get back to our key words, which is cheerful messages. Who has a cheerful message for us? Of any kind.
It is a cheerful message not to feel that you have to respond to people's mechanical conversations, remarks. How are you today, when they don't really mean it, and that sort of thing.
Yes, you understand that they're saying it mechanically, and you may indeed reply, but you don't burden yourself. You don't burden yourself by resenting their mechanicalness. Have you ever resented the mechanicalness of someone else? Said, why on earth don't you wake up? Your resentment is your problem, not theirs. Your wrong reaction to it. So we can be conscious of another person's mechanical and boring conversation without being resentful of it, without fighting it. Just see it.
It's good news not to have to live up to what other people expect of you.
That is good. Would you elaborate?
Well, most of our lives are spent in pleasing other people. Other people run our lives, and it's because we want to feel approved by them. It's all within ourselves. So we are responding the way we know other people will want us to respond.
Expect us to?
Expect us, yes.
It is cheerful news to me to see another in the group begin to wake up.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Because then it encourages us that we can do it, because that other person doesn't have a thing that we don't have. Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm just silently agreeing.
Yes.
So,
Sure. This is, again, remember the first, one of the first points made this morning? This is genuine. It is real. Boy, when you see her say something that's right, that she's working, that is real encouragement, real good cheer. That's what we want.
and the other word, authentic, authenticity,
Authentic.
fact.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Fact is only something I know.
Uh-huh.
What I know is only what I've really experienced.
Uh-huh.
It's really good news to know that you see through us. It's painful, but it's good news. to
Yes.
know it.
Why is it? Again.
I
You
can't
don't know?
explain it any more than that.
Okay, start with Sally here, and then over.
Oh, I was going to say, because we're really tired of playing a role, of pretending. And it's good news to know that you do see through us and don't condemn us for what we are.
Yes,
There's no
we realize there's
condemnation.
no condemnation.
which is good news in itself.
Because we secretly want people to like us for what we are, not the role we have to play. But nobody would.
Their time up? You want to say something? After Larry.
I got so interested in watching him. Okay, in reference to what was said here, I lost the whole train of thought.
Go ahead,
please.
Juan.
It is good news, as this lady here, this other lady over here, just said, that Mr. Howard sees us through, in and out. And it's good news when you accept that fact and you don't hide anything from yourself and use it for a right work. That means that I'm not hiding anything from him, though I'm working for more help from him in hints and suggestions to find many things wrong with me. And then I will see that I am very free of pretending to be something else. It will come automatic. It's not something that you force. It's that you finally give yourself up that this is the only way, and there's no condemnation like Sally said over there, because we know it's the right thing. No forcing.
Go ahead.
All right, it came back to me. If I feel that I have to thank Mr. Howard for what he's done for me, then I'm holding up to a false image, a person, okay? From the teaching or the words or whatever it is called, when I understand what is given to me as a personal project is for me, not for me to please Mr. Howard, you, or anybody else. It is for me to understand me, and when I understand, I'm not to come back and say, oh, thank you, Mr. Howard, because that is not the intent of the teaching. It is for me to see it within myself.
Correct.
Period.
Correct. Because you are not here to show what a grateful human being you are, nor am I here to affirm any image I have of being a great teacher who is so grateful to you. Otherwise, you and I are playing the same deceptive game,
Silly
are we
game.
not? Yes. You
Yes.
you know what you're being attracted to here? To just one thing. Me too. The truth itself, which every one of us has equally, though perhaps buried underneath the rubbish of yesterday. It's all equal. And we get a little bit of it out, and as we said before, then we all understand each other. And in certain things, without thinking about it, just spontaneously, we all understand certain things here, don't we? We see the reality that this is indeed the only possible way, the way of the truth itself.
The goal then is not to become a student, but to become an understander of what we are.
What else? But we could call it being a student simply for everyday purposes, just as we call this a class. That's okay. We understand it, but we see beyond the label to know that we're just a group of people here who are trying to shake each other awake.
The whole purpose of this group is for its disintegration.
In one sense, yes. To disintegrate false personality, phoniness, the wish to become somebody, to impress others. You had your hand up.
Certainly would be cheerful to see that my angers or my grudges that I have from the past are not true anymore. They're not needed.
Not needed, right, not necessary. Let me ask, or were you through? All right, that brings up a point. How many here, including Rudy, have actually seen the cheerful message that your old mechanical, angry, phony nature is beginning to lose its hold on you?
You can't hear that on the tape. I have.
work on it, and it's become more real than this table here. That you're beginning to be free of what has made us a slave all our life.
I find that when my anxieties drop away, those around me that I used to call nervous and uptight, they're not nervous and uptight anymore. I must not radiate to them or...
That's right. That's right. Two nervous people make each other more nervous. There's one really calm person. It's a tendency, not absolute, tendency to calm down the other person. Yeah. See how we have to stop, by the way, identifying with the truth itself. That is saying, I am a man who knows the truth. Because the danger in that is, I am a man who knows the truth. The second thought would be, therefore, I can teach you. Therefore, I am superior to you. That's just another identification. And if you do that, you don't know the truth. You can say, I know the truth, if you understand the non-existence of the I. Then you have to use the word, but you're doing it with understanding. But if you really think you exist as a person who knows the truth, who personally, as a separate ego, possesses the truth, then you become a false prophet who lead others astray in the name of God. The truth doesn't belong to anyone because there is no one there. Truth therefore belongs to everyone, but that everyone is not a distinct you and you and you and me. It's all of us. Did I see a hand?
No.
I guess what you're trying to say when you communicate out, I know the truth. An awakened man can use the word I know the truth, but he's not identified with the word I. He knows from inside him. He just used that for communication.
Yes.
Right. Otherwise,
Yes.
he would know. It's
Yes.
to be used for communication.
And those of you listening to this tape, you remember this. Don't be attracted to human personality, or you'll go astray. Don't be attracted to someone who teaches you just because he's nice looking or has an interesting way of presenting the material, or because he has a bit of fame, or because someone says what a wonderful man he is. Don't you dare be attracted to human personality, or you'll be led astray, and it'll be your own fault because you preferred human personality to the truth. Then if you ever meet a person who is actually teaching you the truth, you'll be able to understand that indeed he is using his own individuality as an individual human being in an individual physical body. If you understand that he is teaching you in his own individual way, but he is not the truth itself, because you are the truth and he is the truth. Don't become subservient to any teacher. That is a seeking for security, and you'll never learn that way. And where there's a seeking for security, there is fear. Maybe you fear to lose your teacher. Or, later on, if you operate in this particular way, after listening to this teacher for a few months or years, the devil will take you over, and you will say, I'm going to be a bigger teacher than he is. And so you start your own false group, and you become an evil prophet who leads others astray. Only your own honesty and sincerity and wish to find the truth by going to the very end of things, that alone can save any of us. This is why every day, each one of us, you, me, have to say, I'm going to start this whole day, I'm going to go through this whole day as if I don't know anything at all. You won't lose what you already know. But I'm going to start every day all over again. That will keep you receptive. That will keep vanity out. And that will keep you learning. And that will keep you, as you said, disintegrating, that is, abolishing the false personality that goes around as reality, and which keeps us in pain.
You find most people say I have the truth, they'll give you a picture of it, they'll give you a shape, they'll give you a rule, they'll give you a commandment, a theorem, a postulate, and a rule is a ruse.
Say that last sentence
A
again.
rule is a ruse. There's no spontaneity in a law and a canon.
Yes, we understand. What he's saying, I believe, if I understand you correctly, we don't want mechanical rules at all. It's a mechanical rule to tell someone, be good. All right, let's see if you can be good. That's a mechanical rule, and it's all right to say that as a general rule. Be good. But then you have to go far beyond that to see that you have no goodness at all. There's only cosmic goodness.
Yeah.
Is that correct, more or less?
I was also hinting at the idea of truth. A person who says that he's got a hold of it, I think is going to lose it. Because the nature of it is ever-changing anyway.
Okay.
Well, that was an incorrect sentence to say the nature of truth is ever-changing. I've just dug the hole for myself. Yeah. If you understand.
But we know what you mean. A person who has
A set idea of what it is never going to find it.
yeah. If he has a piece of glass instead of a diamond, he's going to doubt that piece of glass and start looking around because we sense that it's phony. Do we have the courage to see the glass as glass instead of calling it a diamond? Once we really find the diamond, impossible to lose it. How about that for a cheery message? Once you have the diamond, nothing, no one can take it away. You are the diamond. Go ahead and then.
A little poem. Man is taken as if by ruse. The inexplicable he explains as if nothingness profuse.
Okay.
There are so many pitfalls, and the more we go into this, the more we realize that very few people make it out. All right, now can we connect this realization with cheerful messages so that we don't go off onto the wrong path? For example, as you mentioned earlier, thinking we're a greater teacher than someone else.
There was quite a few things involved in that. Let me see if I can take something out of it. You started by saying that it is a fact that few people find their way out, which is true. Few people will ever find themselves because they think they already have. And then you went into something about connecting a cheerful fact with that. And perhaps what was in the back of your mind, you can correct me if you want, was the fact that we might feel bad to think that other people close to us have not found their way. No, all right, then explain it again. Make it quite clear. Stick to one point now. Give us one clear point. This is part of your work, to be logical.
The realization that there are many pitfalls that very few people actually make it out.
So far, so good.
All right.
Do the best you can.
What can we do to prevent wrong moves with this realization?
All right, go ahead.
May I make an offer? I think of the unto thine own self be true. This is rattled off of all of our tongues and words. It's filed in all of our heads by the stacks and piles. I could look at that as being selfish, egotistical, greedy. I don't today. I look at that as if I feel from the pitfalls that I have been in that I wish to help you or you, there's one way I can do it. Unto mine own self be true.
Correct.
When a little bit of my flame grows, my truth, the truth in me, it isn't my truth, then maybe that person or that person will look and say, hey, I wonder what he's got. I don't know, but I wonder what he's got. Does this come in with what you said?
That is correct, what he said. Now, does it connect with what you're saying there? No.
I don't see the connection.
Well, you're not making your point clear to us. Go ahead
It
here.
seems to me that what Regina is trying to say is that it's cheery to know that there's no such thing as discouragement. In a way, discouragement is a false move.
Yes.
To be discouraged about knowing that few people get out. And really discouragement is out.
Always, always. All right.
I understood you was talking. You were saying that this realization is a break, is a safety device of you getting overconfident and breaking out too soon and saying, well, now I have understood. Now I'm ready to go teach like my teacher did. That's how you came across to me.
Let me clear this up. You are floundering on the level of thought, and your question is really not clear to you, is it? Otherwise, you would have made it quite clear to us. The answer is, clear your own mind by being above conflicting thoughts. All confusion is caused by trying to figure something out on the mental level where it can't be done. I think Larry came to the closest to summarizing it, and we could go on forever in this, where he said, and I say to you now, clear your own mind, and questions and confusions which come out of this old mind will fall away, so that they will not be asked anymore. And you won't be afraid of the fact that many people, maybe people close to you, won't ever find this. Okay, we'll end with that.